You're listening to the Flickcast, a pop culture podcast about stuff nerds love. I am Chris Ulrich, and with me, of course, my esteemed and amazing co-host, Mr. Joseph Dilworth. Joe, hello, sir. How are you?
Well, I don't even know if I can live up to that. I will accept, though, fully vaccinated, which is a
Fully
good thing,
vaccinated. I am as well. We're both fully vaccinated. It's a good time to be alive. Sure, it's a good time to be alive. Anytime's a good time to be alive, I guess.
Well, yeah. Oh, so wait a minute. We're both fully vaccinated. I can take off my mask for this.
You can, yeah. I thought you sounded a bit muffled. I wasn't sure.
Not anymore, because I'm...
Are you wearing a mask constantly? People are going to give you a hard time for that.
You know, I'm still going to mask up. And as we were talking pre-show, I actually did something. I got a haircut and a beard trim, and I was told to take off my mask for the beard trim, and it just felt weird.
Yeah, I believe it.
Really weird.
I believe it. Yeah. Did you get any manscaping? Because you could probably leave your mask on for that.
No, I didn't. I didn't do that, but I thought about it because it's like, it's been a while. Why not?
That's right. Let me take my pants off.
Yeah, but I'll keep my mask on.
Sir, this is a haircut. Okay.
Well, that's I'm a very hairy man.
What's the joke? Sir, this is an Arby's. You don't need to take your pants off.
Right.
Or
exactly.
do I?
Well, yes.
Talk about your beef. Wait a minute. I'm sorry.
Whoa, hey-o.
This just became weird. So I need to apologize for last week. We did not, I'll be honest, we just didn't get our shit together properly. Joe got his shot, and I didn't plan to have another person, a co-host or a guest, and then we just sort of messed up. And there was some technical problems and all kinds of other things. The point is that I messed up. I will take the blame for not having a show last week.
It was both our faults. But hey, listen, the intention was there, and
right, that's true.
We're back this week, and we're kind of forward planning. So look at us.
We're trying to. So,
yeah.
If you like the show and are able to listen to it, you should probably support it on Patreon at patreon.com/TheFlickcast, and you can find us on the socials. And of course, if you want to listen to the show, as you already are, you probably know it's available at Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all that kind of thing. And if you'd be so kind to rate and review the show, particularly on Apple Podcasts, that would be super helpful, because that's the big one. That's the big algorithm that dictates. It's the what is that? The big dick energy of the podcast world. I don't know. Apple Podcasts, the giant dick of the podcast world. So there you go. I can say giant dick, right? So that's okay.
Sure, it's our show. You can say
whatever the fuck I want.
Hey,
okay, cool.
But I was thinking though, because we should be all fancy and do something like you're listening to the Flickcast on the Ulrich Podcast Network, because every podcast I listen to is always like, this is Bob's Podcast Network and stuff like that.
I like Bob's Podcast Network. That sounds good.
Yeah, we should do that. I don't know what that actually does for people, but I think that usually means they have people giving them money. But
well, this podcast only costs money, so I don't know. I don't know why that happened.
We bleed money.
This is a lost leader here for us. I don't know. I'm sure that's like people start a network because it's it's a business or something and it's tax deductible. I don't really know. I wish I knew things. I had a business when we were publishing the Flickcast website, which we still are, with new content. And so that's still a business, I guess. So technically, I guess I could say this is, I don't know. That's a good question. People probably don't even care what that means.
Maybe people have podcast networks and they have people working for them to do advertising for the podcast. I don't know.
Oh, I know they do. They absolutely do. In fact, a guy that was on the show, a guest, my friend Dave Kalo, he was part of a podcast network at one point. Although they went solo, he and his partner Harry went solo to their show, the Homework Podcast, which is a good podcast for people who work at home. Strangely enough, that's probably a lot of you.
So they went the opposite way. They were part of a network, and then
they did.
They were all rebels and went.
They said F this. Well, I think they weren't. I think there was some revenue. I don't even know the troubles. It's just they felt it was more advantageous for them to go on their own. So they've got their own Patreon now and everything. So
nice.
Apparently they're doing well, and they're good people. So I like it when good people succeed.
Yes,
because there's a lot of bad people that seem to succeed, and so when good people succeed, that's good. I've said succeed like 6 times now. 6 times succeeding. Wow, It's pretty good.
Succeed or secede?
Secede is different, totally different.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so we're eagerly anticipating the new Loki show next Friday. That's very
Ooh,
exciting. Or on this
yes,
Friday. By the
yes.
time this show drops, it'll be this Friday. I'm gonna have to watch that on the road, but that'll be fun.
So yeah, we probably won't. The next episode you hear, we won't necessarily be talking about Loki, but we'll have all Loki all the time after that.
Unless the show's terrible. Like we tried to watch The Bad Batch, and then, like you said, it's not the audience. I mean, we're not the audience for The Bad Batch. I don't think. And I wasn't a huge fan of the Clone Wars series either. And I don't know why. Whereas my son loves The Bad Batch. He thinks it's amazing.
Yeah,
But he's
yeah.
only
My
8, so.
my oldest son is a huge fan, and he loves all the Clone Wars stuff. He seems to be a bigger fan of the animated Star
Yeah.
Wars than the live action, which is fine, because obviously there needs to be an audience for that.
For sure.
I think I mean, Clone Wars was okay when I would watch it with him. I was like, oh, that's kind of fun. It seemed to serve like, hey, let's fill in the historical gaps in Star Wars, right? Which is fine. I mean, it was much more action oriented and warsy and clonesy warsy than like the movies. The movies were just the prequels are basically people standing around talking about the Clone Wars instead of like
Sure.
actually in the Clone Wars. And the animated series was here's what the Clone Wars were like. My only problem with Bad Batch is like, so it's just another season of Clone Wars. So
Right, which if people love Clone Wars, probably they're
right,
not upset
and
about
that's
that.
fine.
Like, oh, good,
Yeah,
more
yeah.
Clone Wars. I don't know. Again, I'm not a kid. I wish I was, but and I like kid things sometimes. I mean, there's other animation that I like. Like we watched
Yeah, yeah,
The Last Airbender, a great show, by the way. If you haven't watched that, amazing.
absolutely.
Loved it. Thought it was and it's animated, obviously, and so I totally enjoyed that. But yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe it's for me it's more like a condition of Star Wars burnout, which we talked about before. I think that I'm just maybe tired of Star Wars things right now, and so I'm fine if something obviously I'm fine if something exists that I'm not watching. It doesn't matter if I watch it or not, as long as other people
Yeah,
enjoy it,
yeah.
it's fine. But yeah, I'm not clamoring for new Star Wars stuff right now. So I don't know, whatever. I never thought it would happen, but I just don't love Star Wars anymore.
Although John Boyega just recently said he'd be up for returning as Finn. So
Wow,
I
really?
think it's really funny because it's sort of like the same thing with whoever's playing James Bond, right? It's like right when a movie comes out, it seems to be like quickly interviews turn into, well, what about the next Star Wars movie or the next James Bond movie? And typically the actors have just gone through because Star Wars movies are probably the easiest shoots because there's a lot of action, there's a lot of stuff you have to do in it. Same thing with James Bond. It's a pretty, I don't want to say grueling because it's still acting, but you go through a lot. I mean, Daniel Craig has been injured like every single James Bond
Oh sure,
movie. And then right
it's
after
very
you,
grueling.
it's like, if you imagine, if you will, you just finished the Boston Marathon, and before you even catch your breath, someone says, "Oh, what's your next marathon?" Right? And in that moment in time, all the actors are like, "Fuck this! I'm not doing that again." And so they're like, "Oh no, I'm done. I'm done with this." Especially the Star Wars, the younger Star Wars actors who just went through 3 movies. Like, "Oh no, I'm done." And so then it's like John Boyega will never play Finn again, or Oscar Isaacs will never play Poe Dameron again. Says he's hates Star Wars and done with it. And then a few years later, when someone goes, "Hey, we have this project in mind for Star Wars, and we'd like to give you some money," they're like, "Yeah, I'll do that." So it's same thing with Daniel Craig. It's like, I just did this marathon. You want to know when I'm doing the next one? He's like, "No, I think I'm probably done." And then, a year goes by and they're like, "Hey, we'd like to do another James Bond movie and pay you a lot of money to do that because you're really good at it." He goes, "Yeah, I'll do that again." Right? So,
Yeah, I mean, I like to think it's not just about the money, but it probably has something to do with money. But I don't think Daniel Craig is hurting for cash.
no.
But I think when he says, I don't want to play James Bond anymore, he's probably like, I'm too old. I don't want to be in
Yeah.
that kind of physical shape anymore. I'd rather play, a paunchy detective in 3 Knives Out sequels, in the Knives Out series, and the Knives Out animated series.
Sure.
So
Yes.
I'd rather just do that because it's easier than action movies. Or I'd rather make other movies where I'm a reporter or something, where I investigate weird slavery or white supremacy in Scotland or Sweden or wherever that was. Anyway,
Yeah, and I don't mean it's all about the money because I'm
No, it's
sure
not.
he
But I'm
enjoys the
sure
role.
Boyega's
But
like, I was angry, and he was probably not treated as well as he should have been. I'm sure he wasn't. And Kelly Marie Tran too. I don't think she's going to be clamoring to return to Star Wars either.
right,
But if the right thing came along and it seemed like the right people were involved, I mean, I don't know. You never know. You can't close any doors, and you know that people who are interviewing actors are always trying to get them to say
oh yeah,
something and trip them up sometimes, like, oh, can just give us an exclusive or give us this, or and that
right.
stuff gets twisted. I mean, I hate to say it, but quote unquote entertainment journalism is not it's not the highest standard of journalism sometimes. So
Absolutely. Well, that's why it just kills me. Like all those articles about so and so vows never to play this role ever again. I'm like, that's you know, I don't know. That just cracks me up because it's like, again, like you said, someone may years down the road go, hey, we have this amazing script for an older James Bond or something like that, and it, creatively, Craig looks at it and goes, wow, it's not demanding the things that I can't do anymore, and it's really looks like a fun thing. I'll totally do that, right? So,
well, yeah, it's like Sean
just
Connery. He's like, I'll never play Bond again, and then he came back
right,
once to play.
yeah,
To never say
exactly.
never again.
Right.
And
Well, they
so,
actually did it twice because he quit, and they did on Her Majesty's Secret Service, and that didn't do
that's true.
as well at the box office. And they're like, "Hey, Sean, will you come back again?" And he was like, "All right." And then, like you said, he was like, "No, I'm too old now." And then, Never Say Never Again happened.
This
So,
time I'm really done, and then not.
right. So it's like,
Right, and I agree with you. I think that'd be interesting to see, like, old man Bond. 20 years from now, Daniel Craig could be like the mentor for the young James Bond or
yeah.
something. I don't know. It's too
He
cliche.
could be M, but it's actually James Bond. I mean,
He could be.
who knows?
Who
Who
knows?
knows?
Anything's possible. It depends on his mood. He's gonna have a long career. I'm sure. I'm not too worried about him. Again, he can play detectives in Ryan Johnson movies forever and be happy.
I'm okay with that because
I
Knives Out
imagine
2
those aren't
sounds
as
like really good.
physically demanding as a
No.
Bond film, especially when he's like sitting around and pointing and blah, 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 sounding like what's the
Colonel Sanders.
Colonel Sanders? Is that what it was? Or I always thought it was, what's the rooster's name? Anyway, it doesn't matter. But
Oh, Foghorn
Foghorn
Leghorn.
Leghorn. Thank you. Gosh, I couldn't remember that. That's great.
He nailed that accent, though. I thought he did. I mean,
Well,
because
he's
typically when a Brit does an American accent or the other way around, you can. There are varying degrees of success in doing those accents, but I thought he nailed it. Although I think a Southern accent is
I
not
think it's
too far
easier.
removed
Yeah.
from a British accent.
It's
But,
I think it's. Oh, I've other British actors who've been interviewed. I remember seeing things about how they say the Southern accent is easier to adopt than a regular
yeah,
continental American accent. You can do this. We're like, hey, how you doing?
yeah. Well, in
So
the
I don't know
American
what that was. Sorry.
continental accent or whatever always ends up being this like homogenized English or British, American accent where I talk like this and blah blah, and it's like that's not how
Hey, I grew up in the
people sound.
South of California, so I know what's up.
Exactly.
I know what's up,
Yes.
dude.
Yes.
Anyway, so yeah, I'm fine with that, and I think you're right that John Boyega, sure, maybe he'll come back. I definitely would say that Kelly Marie Tran is probably never going to come back though,
No, and
because
I don't blame
and
her.
because I don't blame her, and probably oh boy, Daisy Ridley probably wouldn't come back either, because they got
Although no, she's also said that yeah, I'd be up for it.
maybe the roles are not piling in for her because I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I don't want to
think
criticize.
they're
I don't want to criticize people, but I didn't find her a compelling lead as much as. Well, it's hard to follow. I guess if you want to call it that, it's hard to follow in the footsteps of Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia. That was a
well,
hard.
that's true.
Those are big slippers to fill.
I would say that I am too kind of I am for the first time maybe in forever. I'm not going. Ooh, when's the next Star Wars movie going to be? I'm just like, no, I
No,
don't care.
me
I'm
either.
actually more interested in Boyega doing Attack the Block 2 than
Yeah,
those
Attack the
films
Block is a great movie if you've never seen it.
It's such a good movie.
Audience members, it's definitely worth watching. Not just for John Boyega, but for the movie itself, it's quite good.
Yeah, yeah.
Do not
So-
mess with people who live in that block if you're in Aliens.
No,
don't
that's
do it.
the wrong place to invade.
Hey, speaking of Aliens, did you see the trailer for Edgar Wright's new movie?
No. I don't think
Well,
so.
it's not about aliens. It's a horror movie, actually.
Oh no, I probably didn't. I'm not a big horror movie fan. So
Okay, it looks interesting though. It's got some interesting casting. It looks cool. I don't know if it's a ghost story or if it's just funky though. But we were talking about Loki for a minute and then we got into a Star Wars
yes,
tangent. But Loki's
sure,
coming.
sure.
Excuse me. But in the meantime, we also got finally a real trailer for the Eternals,
Man, that looks so good.
as opposed to that 12 seconds in that other Marvel thing that they dropped. But yeah, it does. It does look good. It does not look like a Marvel film at all, which is I think good in a way. It
Yeah,
definitely looks
yeah.
like it's going to distinguish itself visually. But any thoughts? What do you think about it?
Um, I just thought it looks really great. The cast is fantastic. I've always enjoyed the Eternals comics. Neil Gaiman, in fact, who we're going to talk more about here in a little bit, wrote an Eternals miniseries that was really good a few years back. So I'm kind of curious to see what they pull from the comics and which series they pull from. But no, I'm very excited, and yeah, I like you said, this doesn't look like a Marvel movie, and that seems, in my opinion, that seems to be kind of the theme for the next phase of the MCU. That the movies aren't going to necessarily look or feel like Marvel movies, which I think is fine. I think is fantastic. So that's kind of, to me, the way forward is okay. So we just did 24 movies that all led to this one story, and they all more or less had kind of the interwoven things and visually kind of looked the same for the most part. And now let's branch out and experiment a little bit more, which is great. I think it looks really good. I liked a little, of course they're going to let us know that the humor is still there by the little tag, talking about, oh, now this Captain Rogers and Iron Man aren't around. Who's going to lead the Avengers? And blah, blah, blah. My only question is, and I trust that they will address this in the story and it will make sense, but if they're these really powerful godlike beings that have existed forever, where were they when Thanos was around, right? So,
Well, you got to think that's one of the first things they have to discuss. I mean, there's a lot of theories being thrown around, of course. One of them being that they just don't know who they are because one of the Eternals, and I can't remember which one it is, has the power to like manipulate
yes.
minds and erase minds and memories and stuff. So maybe there's a horrible tragedy or something that befalls the Earth or befalls another alien race or a planet gets destroyed because there's that whole volcano thing in the trailer.
Sure,
So I'm
sure.
wondering if, and then that one character whose name is again I'm escaping me, but she's like upset, obviously, crying.
Yes.
So, and she's also the one who can do the mind manipulation. So I wonder if they say, you know what, we can't handle this anymore. We've been doing this for thousands of years. We couldn't save anybody. What good are we? Crisis moment, and she's like, you know what, let's just live normal lives. Boom, you all forget who you are, and then they go off and start living their normal lives and doing their thing, and they don't know that they're powerful creatures,
Right.
Eternals, until after the snap, or maybe the snap snaps them out of it, or maybe whatever, and then it's too late, and then there's a bigger threat, or I mean, there has to be a bigger threat, right? But
Of
who
course. Well, if
who
I
is
remember
it?
correctly, that was the premise of Neil Gaiman's Eternals series, was that and I don't remember why, but yeah, they had forgotten who and what they were, and that miniseries was about them remembering, and it was kind of timely because there hadn't been an Eternals comic in years, so it was a little meta, but very cool, and I'm pretty sure that's what the storyline was. So yeah, I would totally buy that
Well,
something
yeah.
horrific happened, and they're like, we need to forget, and then you're right, once Thanos is back and Endgame happens, then it's like, oh,
Well, because there's even that scene in not necessarily in this trailer, but in the previous footage where Kumail Nanjiani's character shows up. He's like taking off his sunglasses. He's like,
yeah,
they're all dressed in their civilian clothes, basically. Like they've all been drawn in like Close Encounter style. They've all been drawn to this one particular place at the cliff near the beach or whatever. And that's when they start. They realize, oh shit, we're these super powerful beings. Oh man, we
right.
could have done something to save. But everything's fine now because everyone returned. So what's the problem? Everything's cool, you know.
Well, maybe they're like the ones that are like, hey, we need to take up this mantle and make up for our absence. And now that the Avengers are kind of disbanded. We need to be the protectors of Earth or whatever. So
I also feel like that whole shawarma scene that's at the trailer, that was shot later.
yeah,
I feel like that. I don't think that was part of the show. It's like because because the shawarma scene was shot later for sure.
Yeah,
And so people know what the shawarma scene is at the end of the original Avengers. They're all sitting around eating shawarma because like shawarma, can we get food now after
Right.
Iron Man almost dies that time, and so. But it was clearly filmed later. They're probably like sitting in their underwear and they only have the tops of their costumes on or whatever. But this felt like it didn't even look the same at all. So
No, it did not. It was
it was clearly like
kind
it's
of
like
weird.
let's get a camcorder. I got my phone. Let's just shoot this scene real quick. But
Maybe it's like for only for the trailer. People
well,
do
sure,
that,
and they do create shots just for the trailer, like
Yeah.
that famous shot from not Endgame, from Infinity
War.
Gauntlet, Infinity War. Thank you. I was saying Infinity
Yeah.
Gauntlet, where they're all running towards the camera together. That's never in the movie.
Yes.
So,
Right. Right.
but yeah, you got to create stuff. And there's also that scene in the trailer for Endgame where Groot or Rocket's walking into the cabin or into the house, but he's alone. But of course, later they added Smart Hulk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but so
They
this
actually shot so that there was a whole trailer shot for oddly enough another movie called Endgame, Highlander Endgame.
What?
That they literally shot things for the trailer that are not even in the movie at all, and it isn't like they're like the bad guys doing magic and stuff like that, and that's not even a part of the movie. It was like, what? That's weird.
Is that the one with? Is that the one with what's his face? Oh, boy. I can't remember Highlander Endgame.
That's the one with both the movie McLeod and TV series McLeod team
Right.
up.
That's cool. Yeah, that's a good one. I don't remember the story 100%, but I
The
do
movie
remember.
was good, but yeah, so I remember watching the trailer going, oh, so they're going to bring, and so the bad guy knows magic and they're going to bring that into this, and then watching the movie going, wait, where were any of those scenes from the trailer?
Where's the magic? The magic is gone.
It's not magic. Well, it's a kind of magic, but
It is. You should
Anyway.
see Highlander Endgame if you haven't seen it in a long time. But
should.
yeah, anything else stand out for you about the Eternals trailer? I just think that if you hire that director for a reason, because that you've seen, if you're Kevin Feige, you've seen her other films,
Yes,
and she just won an Academy Award, which is nice.
she did. Yes.
So that'll help I mean, not that the movie needs help, but
No.
I'm sure people will go see it. I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be cool. But yeah, you do bring up a good point, though. I wonder, because one thing that people don't know necessarily is that Thanos is also technically an Eternal, right?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, he's a deviant, though.
No, I think it's an Eternal.
Because the Celestials, okay, is this, if I get my Marvel history right, the Celestials created humans and the Eternals and the Deviants.
the Deviants. Yes.
Right. So Thanos, I think, is technically a Celestial, but also a Deviant. And then humans are just humans. And then Eternals are Eternals, the protectors of Earth, I guess, or the universe.
Well, yeah. I mean, it depends on.
Will we
which
see the
era of
Celestials
comics you read, but
Will we see the Celestials in this movie? I wonder.
yeah, I would hope so, because I mean, we got kind of teased with one of the Celestials in Guardians of the Galaxy, the flashback about the Infinity Stones.
Right. Right.
So it'd be nice to see them actually show up, but.
Well, they've already admitted there's already magic in the Marvel universe now, and there's already
Well,
there are Celestials like in Guardians of the Galaxy when they go to nowhere. That's the giant head of a Celestial, right?
Yes,
So it's
exactly.
so they already exist. They just haven't been. And Ego, Quill's dad was a Celestial, right?
Yep.
So there
Yep.
you go.
Yep. So
So
yeah,
there
we'll
you
see.
go.
I mean, I'm really excited about. I got to say that all of the new Marvel stuff, unlike, God, I hate being that kind of fan, but unlike anything to do with Star Wars, all the Marvel stuff is just really, really exciting. I mean, Loki looks really good. The 2 TV series that we've gotten so far are great, and I'm a huge fan of the What If comics. So I'm really looking forward to that animated series later this year. Oscar Isaacs, who we mentioned earlier, is confirmed, even though everyone's known for months as playing Moon Knight in a Moon Knight TV series, which I love that character too.
He confirmed it because he posed with a photo of it in his Instagram. Is that why?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think what
Moon Knight
what,
bitches. Oh wait, sorry.
yeah, I think what's really cool is so DC, especially the movies and to a certain extent the TV series, seems to want to keep focusing on like the big brand name characters, I guess, or
Batman and the Joker,
the higher tier, Superman, Batman, and all this stuff over and over again, which is fine because we've gotten some great stuff there. But I love the fact that Marvel, and this is probably mostly because they sold off the rights to some of their big tier characters years ago, is like, Moon Knight, yeah, sure, what the hell, let's do a series on that. She-Hulk, okay, why not, right? They're like, there is no character that is too unknown to feature, and that's been kind of fun because a lot of these characters that I've loved for years and loved reading in the comics are getting their due and showing up, and it's fantastic. So kudos to Marvel.
It is fantastic. I mean, the truth is they have a huge amount of characters to draw upon, and for a while they had to just use what they had, right? Because they didn't have
Right.
They didn't have Spider-Man, or they didn't have the X-Men, so they got Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
So they had to go, I don't know, who's available? Iron Man,
Right.
Captain America, Thor. We can make an Avengers show without Spider-Man and without, whatever. But but it worked out, and it worked out well for them. And yeah, you're right. I think the shows have been really good, and I'm excited for more Marvel stuff. Loki is going to be cool. Although, honestly, I like Tom Hiddleston. I like the Loki character.
Yes.
A new series is fine, but that's not like, oh my god, I wish there's a Loki show. That is not something I was clamoring for necessarily.
Right. No,
But,
and
that's fine, and that's fine. Other people love him and love the character, and it looks really cool. I'm more interested in continuing the MCU in the movies because I want to see what happens with Doctor Strange, and I want to see what happens with Shang-Chi, and I want to see what happens with how are we going to continue the Avengers, because eventually we got to figure out how to continue the Avengers. And I want to see Black Widow, and I want to see all that stuff too, because,
Well, yeah, and it's kind of funny because the Avengers now have been relegated to. I mean, everybody talks about them, but there's no like who are the Avengers now, and do they actually still exist? Apparently, they do because they keep getting mentioned in these things. But yeah, that. So, do we eventually get another Avengers movie, or is it going to be another kind of team up?
Well, I mean, Cap and Iron Man obviously are not around, but
right.
The rest of them are still around, right?
Right, but who's like leading them and stuff?
Falcon could lead, or
Yeah.
I mean, he could be in the Avengers. Spider-Man could be in the Avengers. I guess Vision's gone, so
right. Well,
yeah.
or is he?
Or is he? Yeah, that's a good point. Well, it's the new Avengers then. It's the young kids are going to take over.
The young Avengers would be fun.
Young
I
Avengers,
would like to see that.
Because they got to continue it somehow. I mean, this is a cash machine, so they have to keep.
Yes.
They have to keep making the movies and stuff. So it's not going to end, or they're just going to string it through Phase 4, and then be done and go, okay, let's wait a year, reboot everything.
It could be, but still,
we can start over, do the whole thing again.
Yes, we'll start over. We'll remake the whole Infinity Saga. No, I like the fact that they didn't have their marquee characters, so they had to take a chance on their lower tier. I don't want to say lower tier, but their next tier characters, and it worked. So now it's just like all bets are off. I mean, anybody in their 900 plus characters could show up and do.
Well, it's all because it's also consolidated under Disney, though. That helps, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, here's the thing too. I mean, now that they have the rights to X-Men and Fantastic Four back, they're not. I guess the telling point is it wasn't like, oh, cool, we have the rights back, so here's 14 X-Men movies and a bunch of Fantastic Four movies. They're like, yeah, we're going to take our time to introduce them. And
they got a plan, and I'm looking forward to another Spider-Man film. I think Tom Holland does a great job as Spider-Man. I'd like to see how he integrates with into the Spider-Verse, because they have to do the multiverse thing, I'm sure, and Multiverse of Madness is going to be awesome.
There's going to be a Craven movie too.
Yeah, one thing I was curious about though is, in my opinion, like Civil War was an interesting movie, but I mean, the Skrulls are like a kind of a big deal. That was a big arc in Marvel Comics. I'm surprised they're it seems like maybe relegating it more to the series. Although maybe now they're not making as much a distinction between the TV and the movie side.
I don't think they are anymore. I think they're like it's
It's
all
all
the story.
it's
It's
all
all one
money.
story.
It's all money,
It's all
baby.
connected. It's all connected.
It's all connected. It's all happening. So
Yeah.
I feel like they're still going to have the major MCU movies, but I feel like they'll do more with
Series.
with series, yeah,
Yeah.
with more with Disney
Yeah.
Plus. Because why not? Why not support everything? I still think they'll make more money from movies, though. I feel like that's something that they can ship around the world. Although feature motion pictures are way more expensive. You're talking about
Yes.
$250 million to make one Avengers Endgame, as
You
opposed
can
to
make several series.
you can make
Yeah.
several series for that same. So I'm sure there's bean counters in a room somewhere, and I don't want to disparage bean counters because they're important. But there's people making the calculations like it's more cost effective to make 10 TV shows than it is to make 5 movies or whatever. So I don't know why they have that.
Yeah.
I don't know why they have that accent either. It's like I don't know. It's weird. Anyway,
That's your bean counter
I'm
accent.
hey, it's very much it's better to do it this way. They're like those in the Harry Potter movies. They're all played by gnomes or whatever. I don't even remember what those creatures were called, but anyway, all the banker creatures. But
Oh yes.
I'm not. I have to be honest about it. I'm not a big Harry Potter expert because I haven't watched. I think I watched I've watched the movies like once maybe, but it's not my jam, dude. I'm sure it would have
That's
been
okay.
if I'd been young when Harry Potter came out. Although I tried to read the first book, and this is not a disparaging thing about Harry Potter. I tried to read the first book, and it just wasn't for me. It's like I don't think I was the audience for that. Even when maybe if I'd read it as a kid or something, I would have.
Well, so we won't go too much into this, but to me,
No.
think what you want about Rowling, but the genius of the Harry Potter books, because I have read them, is they seem to be, and I don't know if this was intentional or if it just happened this way or if she progressed as a writer, but they seem to be kind of, I don't want to say, they seem to be focused towards like, so the first book, Harry Potter, is 11 and he goes through
Right, and you said that before,
being a
actually, and I agree with you
teenager
that
through
I
the
think
course of the series, and I think they're like,
Yeah.
the first book is designed to be read by an 11-year-old, second one by a 12-year-old, and they kind of progress in complexity and expand duly in the as the reader and Harry progresses, and I think that's kind of the genius of them. And it's like, wow, that's like I said, I don't know if that was intentional or if it just became that way because the story grew, but it's like, wow, that really works exceptionally well. And the movies less so, because I think the movies are more obviously designed for a general audience and for everybody, but the books I think are excellent in that regard. And I think it's perfect. It would be, if you were started the books at 11 years old and read one a year going forward, I think it would really be an enriching experience. But I think the movies also kind of work slightly in that way.
they definitely
So,
get
I
darker
don't-
as it goes along for sure. But
Yeah,
no, I think you're right. I think if it wasn't intentional, it maybe in the first book, because I feel like when she was writing that, she was like not thinking it was ever gonna get published at all.
Yeah.
And so it's like I just want to get this book out, and maybe it was written from the perspective of, because I mean it's kind of for kids, right? And it's about kids,
Right.
so
Right.
to sort of make it more simplistic makes sense. So maybe that was a stylistic choice, and nothing to take away from Rowling as a writer. I mean, she's a very, I think, a pretty good writer, but
Yes.
a garbage person, as it turns out. But that's okay.
Yes.
I can separate the art from the artist. I don't need to, I can dislike her, but still enjoy stuff.
That's why I enjoyed The Doers, even though Joss Whedon is a garbage human being.
Yeah, I never. It's funny you say that. I was gonna watch the whole show, and then I kind of, it's like one of those things. I can only have so much time, so I switched from The Nevers to Mayor of Easttown, by the way, which is a fantastic show. If you haven't watched it,
I haven't checked it. I gotta check that out.
it is
Watch
excellent.
that.
Kate Winslet is knocking it out of the park, man. She's freaking great. And you know what?
Speaking of accents, I hear she has a fantastic Pennsylvania accent.
She does. And there's the great quote that I saw that she's like, I finally get to play a character who's my age. I get to play a 45-year-old person who looks 45.
Nice.
I was like, wow, that's true. But the funny thing about the show, and I won't spoil it, but she still is great, I think, even though she's not playing, for glamming it up or whatever. She's She's really amazing in the show. And it's a dark kind of show. It's a murder kind of
Yeah,
investigation kind of
and
thing.
Evan Peters plays Pietro, from what I hear.
Evan
So.
Peters, yeah, Pietro shows up in it. Yeah, it's funny you say that because he's so attached to these creepy characters from like American Horror Story and stuff. So when he shows up, you're like, oh, yeah, something's wrong with that guy. But
Right.
no spoilers. Maybe there's something wrong with him. Maybe there's not. Who knows? But
All right, I gotta watch it. All right.
it's definitely worth watching if you haven't watched it. Joe and anyone else listening, Mayor of Easttown is excellent. So, all right, well, we were talking about Marvel. We should talk about the recent Sandman casting kerfuffle. I know you like that word kerfuffle.
I do.
There's something else I wanted to say about Eternals, but I can't remember what it was. So let's just move on to Sandman. That's fine.
All right.
Because I'm getting tired, sleepy. Because of oh no, wait. No.
Mr. Sandman.
So they announced the casting for the Sandman show.
Another round of casting. Yes.
Another round of casting. Well, the big ones.
Yes. Yes.
The big main characters. I don't recognize too many of the names. I mean, David Thewlis, obviously, I recognize him. But they're all. Oh, and who else? Stephen Fry too. Is that Stephen Fry?
Stephen Fry, Patton Oswalt. I mean, Jolie Richardson. Come on.
I guess I do. I'm sorry. You're right. I do.
A lot of them. Come on.
I do. So people are upset about some of the casting because some of the characters are supposed to be men, first of all, and they're also upset because the pronouns being shown in the
actually
the
current casting announcement, there isn't anyone that's gender swapped. I'm pretty sure. I think in the previous announcement there was one previous character that changed genders.
Is Death a woman in the Sandman? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I can't remember.
But
I haven't read Sandman since like the 90s when it came out.
But a certain segment of people. Well, actually, so.
Oh, Jenna Coleman. I know who that is.
Death appears. The conceit for Death in the comics is they appear differently to whoever is perceiving them, but traditionally depicted just like Morpheus has a certain depiction, typically depicted as a white goth girl. And so there's a segment of people that are up in arms because a person of color has been cast as Death. Apparently that, oh no, you can't do that. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I saw some stuff online, and I kind of wonder if people just now do this for attention more than anything else, because I can't imagine being so upset about something like this where I would like attack people, in particular attack Neil Gaiman on Twitter.
Right.
It's like the guy wrote the thing, and if he's cool with it, why are you upset about it? And it's like I don't.
Yeah, and he's also the showrunner for this,
right? And
too.
Yeah, so. And I mean, so what is your point other than? What is your point, guy with 40 Twitter followers, other than to get attention? It has to be right, or you're a bot, or you're just
racist. But
I mean, I guess, but are you saying racist people are irrational? I mean, maybe they are, but
well, yeah.
Well, they seem to have irrational hatred of certain races, I guess. But
yes.
I like to think that I'm not a person who would be that upset about something like this. I don't know. I wasn't angry about like new people in Star Wars movies. I wasn't angry about gender swapping Starbuck in Battlestar Galactica.
Right.
I was like, oh, that's interesting. Why would they do that? I wonder. And then I was like, I'm going to see what it looks like and see how it goes. And it was amazing. Katie Sackhoff was amazing as Starbuck, and it made perfect sense.
Yes.
The one thing they did that was so smart, I thought, in that show, and we'll get back to Sandman in 1 second, sorry, is that they made Starbuck her call sign.
Right, exactly.
And Apollo the call sign. It's like, of course that's what you're supposed to do. That's not their actual names. That doesn't make any sense. That's their call signs. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, that was brilliant.
It was brilliant. Ron Moore, man, the guy's a genius.
So yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, that's, there's just idiots out there. So
yeah, I don't understand that mentality. I just don't.
The other kind of related gripe, if you would, is that with the latest casting announcements, they being the producers, also added not just the actor, I think we'll just say actor's name and the character they're playing, but also their preferred pronoun. And that has people up in arms because everything's all woke now. And I'm like, so what's wrong with that? In this case, though, I think it's important, kind of especially for fans, in that there are. Here's the thing: the Sandman comic. I mean, we're going to get into. Well, obviously, people haven't read the comic, and I'm not trying to gatekeep the story at all. But
Oh, you are.
yeah, I am. But for the times when this was published originally in the late '80s, early '90s, it dealt with a lot with gender fluidity, sexual fluidity, that kind of thing. So it's appropriate to me that they let people know who's playing what. So, like, for example, the character of Desire is kind of a amorphous character that appears, and much like the rest of the Endless, death, desire, dream, and all that, they appear in different forms to the person that perceives them. And Desire in the comic was always depicted as very androgynous. You weren't really sure if they were male or female, and it didn't really matter to the character. And so pointing out that the person playing Desire is also transgender, I think is important, so that it's kind of like, if Shang-Chi had been played by a white guy, people would be up in arms. And it's like, it should be played by an Asian. It should be played by
or Scarlett Johansson.
Right.
That'd
and it should be
right?
played, yeah, exactly. It shouldn't be played by, Shang-Chi shouldn't be just generic Asian actor, right? It should be appropriate to the culture you're depicting.
It shouldn't be a Japanese guy playing a Chinese guy. I mean, I hate to say it, but that happens.
Right.
Right.
So the same thing with, Desire. I think it's a good thing that they've cast an androgynous transgender actor to play the character. So I don't have a problem with the pronouns. I don't understand why that's a
because everybody is up in everybody. People don't like this whole idea of being whatever woke means. They don't like that,
right?
And so anything that stabs at or picks at their fragile worldview is a thing that needs to be attacked, because they don't know anything else. If you don't understand something, you're afraid of it, right? So it makes them uncomfortable, so they feel they need to attack it. But again, I also think it's a huge factor, or a huge factor in this is that people just want attention. They want clout. They want clout. I had an argument with Neil Gaiman on Twitter.
Right.
Fuck that guy. He doesn't know anything about Sandman. Fuck that guy,
Yeah, what does he know about
What does
Sandman?
he know about the thing he created? Nothing. I know
Exactly.
it. I take possession of it because I read the comics, so I know what it should be, and you're wrong.
I own it, yes. And it's not done the way I think it should be, so it is all wrong, and it's all fan fiction because it's not real.
Exactly. I'd forgotten about some of his other casting, like Gwendolyn Christie's in it. Boyd Holbrook.
She plays Lucifer, which is fantastic.
Which is interesting because there's already a Lucifer show, and that guy's not going to be Lucifer. Tom Ellis is not going to be Lucifer in the Sandman show, which is, I thought, it's kind of sad for him. I feel bad for him, but
well, maybe that was part of it early on. They were like, "Hey, I know your show Lucifer is ending. Would you like to come over and play Lucifer on Sandman?" And maybe he was like, "Yeah, I'm kind of finished with it."
Maybe, or maybe they just couldn't, because the character in the Lucifer show is not like Lucifer and Sandman at all.
Yeah, it's quite a bit different, because that comes later. I mean, it is actually, well, it's the same character, because they do a Lucifer comic where he does the same thing where he decides
Constantine shows up in the Lucifer show, so obviously he's in the same kind of world in a way.
But it's a different Lucifer's in a different place and different state, if you would, in Sandman than what is depicted later in Lucifer's own series. So I don't. Yeah, it would have been kind of cool if he, nice little crossover. But I don't. I think it's fine. Gwendolyn Christie will be awesome at it. She's just
she will. The only other person I ever thought about being that character, and I'm gonna totally forget the character's name now. God damn it! Hold on a second.
Lucifer.
To play that character was I'm forgetting the actress's name.
Tilda Swinton.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
I don't know why I couldn't remember Tilda Swinton. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Actually, Tilda Swinton could have played Desire quite well as well.
She could have, and also I thought of her originally too because she was in the Constantine movie with Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, indeed.
Which she's great in everything, and she was also great
Yeah.
as the supreme, the sorcerer supreme. Although people got mad about that too, but
Well, and they've admitted that Kevin Feige is like, yeah, you know what? We were just excited about Tilda Swinton and what she
yeah,
could bring to the role, and we misstepped there. So
yeah. Well, and I think they're correcting. They're trying to correct
yeah,
now.
yeah.
So
The other third, and I'll call these manufactured controversies
there you go.
for Sandman is Jenna Coleman is playing Joanna Constantine, and of course immediately the anti-reality and seeking attention audience jumped in to say, oh, I can't believe they're gender swapping John Constantine, and it's a completely different character. It's Constantine's great 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 grandmother. So it's like
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and
People,
it's still a big thing today. I'm just like, okay, all right.
yeah. People are
So,
angry, man. I just the other thing I chalk it up to is everyone's been stuck at home for so long, and they're looking for shit to bitch about.
I here's my thing though. I mean,
I don't want to say everyone's a racist because that's terrible. So
but there's so much entertainment out there that well, and even before COVID and all that, I never understood people getting like angry to the point, well, angry at all, but angry especially to the point of like threatening violence over entertainment. I don't get it. It's just like
yeah, well, yeah.
move on, watch something else. I mean, there's plenty of things out there. I'm sure racists can find something aren't they still making Duck Dynasty? Go watch that. You'll be fine.
Are they? I don't know.
So I don't know. I don't care.
Is that a show, Duck Dynasty? Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I'm just like I don't understand, like, a movie really ruined your life. How did that happen? That's dumb. Or I'm so angry that I'm going to tell the person that created this that they're a horrible person and I'm going to threaten to murder them. Like, what?
Oh yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so the whole thing of being just like fuming angry about entertainment just I've never understood that. I never get it. And these manufactured controversies, because I think they're bullshit. I'm like, why? I mean, look at the casting announcements if it's something you're interested in and go, yeah, all right. It's okay to say, that's not my cup of tea. I'll pass.
Right. It's like us and the Bad Batch or something, for example. It's like
Yeah.
it's not for me.
Right. It's
But
not for
then
me.
it-
I'm not,
But then again, I don't think that we are of the same mentality. Perhaps.
I mean, even like
I don't
the
hate.
Twilight,
I don't hate everything.
the Twilight movies. I don't get them, but they're certainly not for me. But I don't begrudge. Obviously, there's a lot of people that like them, my wife included, and I'm just like, have at, enjoy. I mean, there's nobody that is forcing me to watch any of this stuff. So
That is
and
never.
nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody's being forced to watch it, so just pass. Even with Star Wars, it's like, so the sequel trilogy, you didn't like it, cool, move on. The people that do like it are not horrible people. So I
No,
don't know.
that's true.
I just don't get
This is greatly illustrated also by the fact that my son can watch 8 hours straight of other people playing Minecraft.
Right, exactly.
And yelling at each other about Minecraft, and it sounds like chalkboard, nails on a chalkboard to me.
Right, exactly.
Especially the
But
screaming. I'm like, nope, I can't. You got to turn it off. I can't listen to it anymore. It's not for me, obviously.
I'm only frustrated by the YouTubers in the fact that they can be, from my view, so banal, and they're making a bunch of money. But
Well, true.
and we're sitting here with our very erudite and amazing podcast and not making any money off of it. So,
Well, not. Yeah, it's true.
but I'm not like, I think they should be burned at the stake, right?
Well, we're
So
not.
it's
I
like,
think
wow.
controversy. I guess controversy generates clicks, right? So
Sure,
what we should say is more sensational kind of things and get more angry about stuff, and maybe more people would be upset and give us money. I don't know if that's how it works. I guess that's how it
Yeah.
works. That's what it seems like anyway.
I guess so.
So I don't know if I'm angry enough to do that though. So
Maybe we should like be a pro Joss Whedon podcast or something.
yeah,
That would
Joss
get
Whedon
us-
was robbed, man. That's bullshit.
Yeah, he's right. He knows what he's doing.
We'll call this the Gaslight Podcast, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, man, that probably would do well.
You'd probably make a ton.
But, yeah,
I mean,
so,
there's other
yeah.
conservative type people who make money on podcasting. I mean, they'll always. I'm not going to mention any names because I don't want to give them any airplay at all. But
No.
they do make money, and because one thing that people who are angry love is other people who are also angry about the same thing. So
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, I guess that's enough of that.
that's enough of that bullshit.
Yeah.
I do want to see this show. I'm glad that they were able to get back to work after COVID.
Yes.
And
Well, Neil is shepherding it, so I feel good about it. I mean, he's already said there are going to be parts of the story that he's going to rework, and I mean, it makes sense. The original came out in, like we said, the late '80s, early '90s,
Yeah.
and I'm sure there are parts of it. And there's
That
one
are
of the, like
dated.
and there's that's one of the first things of fiction that he wrote. He was an entertainment journalist before that, oddly enough, but that's one of the first fictional things he wrote. And I'm sure, I mean, as a writer, if you look back at early things, you're always like, ooh, I wish I would have done that differently. So here's his chance to kind of fix some of those things and tweak it a little bit and make it, more kind of relevant to today. So yeah, no, I'm all for it. I can't wait to see it. I originally they were talking about, well, we'll do Sandman as a movie, and I'm like, God, that's such a rich story. It's 75 issues and very distinct storylines. How do you do it as a movie or even a series of movies just in 2 hours?
You couldn't have.
Yeah.
That was why I was in development hell for so long. You just can't condense it down in any way to one movie or whatever. It had to have been a series, and it couldn't have been a series on regular television for sure.
No.
So there had to be the rise of Netflix or Hulu or all these things, and now Netflix has got the money to put up for it. So that's what happened, and they can do basically whatever they want on Netflix and should tell the story however they want to. So
yeah, and that was my same thing with like Game of Thrones. I'm like, there's no way you could even do a movie and do justice to the story in 2 hours, or even a 3-hour movie. And thankfully that went to series, for better or for worse. But yeah, same thing with Sandman. It's like such a rich story that it would be a disservice to dilute it down to a 2-hour movie. So I'm very glad that it's a series. I'm very glad that Neil is in charge of it and that it's going to be on Netflix. So
that's the
kudos
thing.
all around.
Yeah, exactly. I will definitely watch it. The real question though is, I mean, then we talk about this kind of thing, distilling things down. Like there's other works of fiction, like Dune. I never thought that's a big book, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that should have been a TV show. I don't know. Or the other things, they try to condense stuff down, and sometimes it works. I mean, you can adapt things into movies, but even Dune has to be 2 movies now. But it's like we were just talking about Harry Potter. Those are big books, right? But they're like 2.5-hour movies, and there's a lot of stuff that gets cut out. But they did a pretty good job, I think, of adapting them for the screen. But yeah, Game of Thrones couldn't have been, and it couldn't have been on regular TV either. I mean, when is it going to be? Like Friday nights at 10 o'clock on ABC? I mean, there'd probably be less rape, I suppose, if it was on regular television. But
well, I mean, if Harry Potter existed back in the 80s, they would have like made it into like a 2-hour movie and done the whole story, as opposed to, I mean, I think they did the smart thing in doing a movie per book. Would that have been better as a series? Maybe, but and maybe someone will do that eventually. I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, no one can except Rowling because she still owns that shit. So
oh, that's right. Yes.
She has to agree.
Yeah.
So who knows? I don't know. I feel like she'll never revisit that world again. Maybe she will. I don't know. Who knows? I guess people are. That's the kind of thing that people are very, very, very attached to. So if there's ever more Harry Potter stuff, like another book or a series, people are going to be, well, upset about the fact that there's even another show, but the casting, everything, people will be upset about that. So I kind of, from sitting behind with my meme of eating popcorn, waiting to see what happens, I kind of want to know.
Yes, exactly.
That's terrible. But so I don't know. I don't think we'll ever see any more. Not right now, anyway, because people. Although anything's possible, Kevin Spacey's got a new role in a movie.
I was about to say Kevin Spacey is
possible.
back to making movies now. So
Anything's
although
possible.
they're in Italy, but whatever.
Well, in Italy, it's okay to be
Right.
an asshole,
Yeah.
I guess.
They're like, oh no, we don't care what you did.
We don't care. I don't know. That's not an Italian accent. I'm sorry. That's terrible.
Wow,
But,
that was terrible.
yeah, it's. I don't know. I guess everyone gets a redemption. When is Louis C.K. going to tour again? I don't know.
That'll happen, I'm sure.
I'm
So,
sure.
are we? Should we talk about Jupiter's Legacy, or have we talked long
Just
enough
just
this
for a minute,
episode?
I guess, because we want to cut this
Yeah,
one. We don't want to be too long. But yeah, Jupiter's Legacy is a show.
you
Part
sound
of
like you're not a fan,
part
or
of
you do
the
not enjoy
part
it.
of Millar World or Miller World on Netflix, right?
Yes. Yep. Yep.
I thought that here's my feeling about Jupiter's Legacy. It was very very slow, and it's one of the. I feel like it's a case where it could have been fewer episodes, and I hate to say that, but the
Oh,
story they
okay.
told, I feel like didn't need that much build up and that much because the payoff didn't seem worth the trip, if that makes sense.
That
But
makes sense.
you probably feel differently though.
As I've said many times, I am a big fan of characters and character development. So the fact that it spent a lot of time on characters, I don't have a problem with. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, it's dragging and it's slow, but I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was really good. I hope it gets a second season to continue the story. The the only problem I had with it, and I don't know that you can accurately weigh in because you haven't seen the final episode.
I have not.
There is a twist, as wont to happen in a lot of these stories. There is a fairly significant twist at the end of the finale that doesn't. I can see why story wise, I suppose it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense to me. So, and I want you to see it because I want to talk about it. But it's like, oh, hey, that's a cool twist. But it's almost like, oh, yeah, of course that would be the twist. And then I'm like, but how does that work with what we've seen? So I have a problem with that. But otherwise, I quite enjoyed it. I like the fact that it was kind of like how would superheroes deal with kids basically and their offspring and not their offspring are now superheroes, but they have to deal with a different world, especially since these heroes started in the 30s and are obviously age really slowly because they were superpowered. But how do you reconcile like how crime and the world was in the 30s with how it is today, and yet teach your kids to be upstanding superheroes? So I kind of like that.
Yeah,
study
I
of
like
it.
that part of it too, and I basically where it fell apart for me is I guess maybe got distracted or whatever and couldn't quite finish. I mean, I'm basically through most episodes. It's just I do like the thing you're talking about though, where maybe his view of the world is antiquated because now
Right.
you gotta kill a few dudes. It's okay. So
Right, and that I think we've discussed that too. It's like how does Batman justify the Joker continuing to escape and murder people
right,
when
he's to blame. Right at
right,
that point, he's an accomplice almost. So yeah,
right, and they kind of like really follow on that. It's like listen, because they're spoilers, but there is a villain that is killed, or is he? But
or is he?
killed part of the way through, and it was it was kind of like the part in Man of Steel with Zod. It's like he had no choice. This guy was gonna his power is to detonate in nuclear fashion. He was going to detonate and kill his the hero's parents and friends, and that there was no talking him down. He wasn't going to not do that, and the only way to stop him was to kill him. So like, and they debate that throughout the rest of the series. It's like, did he really do the wrong thing? It's like, well, according to the code and the way we came up as heroes, yes, that was absolutely wrong. But according to the Batman Joker conundrum, was that wrong? Right. So I like that they discuss that. I like that they spend a lot of time on that, and the character, the son who killed the villain, is conflicted about it as well. And there's a great part in the final episode discussion that he has with his dad. And there's actually a part where the dad, where the Utopian, isn't that what he's called? Yeah, Utopian.
Yeah, Utopian.
Is kind of coming around to, okay, so maybe this is a necessary thing. And but at the same time, the kid is coming around to, I get why the code exists, and I get why you're saying that, and I actually believe in that now. So it's really, really cool discussion between the two. And then there's a situation that's set up later where the dad has to decide. I don't know. I just think it's all these things that I've always kind of debated in my head and wondered about with superheroes. Mark Miller, or Millar, however you pronounce his last name, is bringing up in this series, and I'm like, wow, that's really cool to see that.
Well, yeah, it's like, if you have these powers, what is your responsibility to humanity, if any?
And to me, unlike The Boys and some of the other superhero deconstruction stories, to me, Mark Millar in this has an obvious love of superheroes and doesn't want to say, okay, superheroes are stupid and them standing up for the right thing is dumb. He's like, no, what does that actually mean, and how can they, what toll does it take on them to continue to do that in today's society? So I think it's it's coming from a place of love a love of superhero comics as opposed to The Boys and other stories. So I really, I don't know, I just really like it.
Well,
so.
not to be a Boys apologist, but the superheroes in The Boys are not good people. So that's a major difference. They're bad people doing bad things because they've decided that their powers are to benefit themselves.
Right.
So, but yeah, that's the thing. It's like it all comes from Superman, right? It's like you have this idealized person who has these powers like a god, basically. And what can he do? What should he do? Right? I mean, even Zack Snyder touches that on a tiny bit in.
Yeah.
It's like, so what is this person supposed to do? I mean, in Civil War, it's like you have these Avengers going around doing stuff, but they're not being controlled, or they're not being it's not authorized by anybody. They're just deciding to go and do shit. So what responsibility do they have to fight bad guys or whatever? So yeah, that was the thing that was interesting. But I think they kind of, in a way, and again, I like you said, I haven't seen it all the way to the end, but the thing that I was concerned about or wondering about is that there's kind of almost a cop-out, because that character wasn't the real character who was going to explode, but also you don't know for sure if he would have even killed anybody.
Right.
Because you don't know the Utopian's powers. I mean, maybe it wouldn't, but he did already, I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but he did already kill somebody, right? So,
right. I mean, that's the other thing is like, he
already killed one of his friends, so.
Right. And they have that discussion too in the finale, because that stuff continues, and it's like, the bad guys don't care about doing the right thing or protecting people or not doing damage. And the argument isn't that we should be as flagrant as them, but when it comes down to it, maybe there are times where it's necessary. Like I've said, we've had that argument about Batman and Joker, and other superheroes and their arch enemies. It's like it's totally on them when that person escapes, because there's, especially superpowered villains, there's no prison that's going to be able to hold them, and that kind of plays in subtly too into this. So I don't know, it's just a really good show, a good character study, and it has, I guess maybe because it has the themes and discussions that I've always had in my head about comic books and superheroes. Maybe that's why it appeals to me. But yeah,
I'll finish it
on your thoughts. Yeah, after you finish.
I'll finish it, and we can talk about it on a later episode. It also ties into what we're going to talk about in next week's episode too, about superhero movies and things like that. So that'll be good. It's a superhero couple of weeks, and then of course, like Joe said, we'll get into Loki and all that stuff. But in the meantime, that's pretty much it for today, I think.
Yeah. Yes.
Are you good? Have we beaten this stuff to death as we always do?
I think we've. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so like I said before, find us at Patreon, patreon.com/TheFlickcast. Wow, Jesus. On the socials at the Flickcast. Our website has content posting frequently. Good stuff too. And Joe and I are online at Chris U and at What Joe Writes.
Yep.
And then, of course, Apple Podcasts. Give us a like and subscribe, or rate and review, or smash that like button, or whatever you're supposed to do.
Crush that like button. Yes.
Crush it. And we'd appreciate that. Anything else, Joe?
I think that covers it.
All right, cool. So for Joe Dilworth, I'm Chris Ulrich. That was the Flickcast. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you later.